The chronic problem that permeates the entire Bible is that people's behaviors and responses don't make any sense if it's accurate. Only after removing God and the miraculous do their actions and words become coherent. Case in point, let's look at the resurrection. Now, Jesus repeatedly and plainly told his disciples that he would rise again after 3 days. These people that knew him intimately, lived with him, traveled with him, learned from him, saw him perform many miracles, heal the sick, cast out demons, raise the dead, walk on water, control the weather. They knew he was the Son of Man, Son of God, Messiah, Lord God. So when that day finally came, there was no one there. That's weird. They must have been stuck in traffic or something. I mean, when your good friend God tells you that they're going to be at the airport at a certain time, you kind of need to be there. But no, they all thought he was dead. Mary Magdalene and 2 other women were just going to anoint Jesus's body. And they didn't even know how they were going to get into the tomb. Luckily, the stone was rolled away and there was a stranger inside who told them not to be alarmed. Jesus is risen and you need to go to Galilee. And upon hearing this, the women fled in terror, trembling and bewildered, and said nothing to anyone about this. Now, I'm not quite sure why they were afraid or even how Mark heard about this, since they didn't tell anybody. But this is where Mark ends his story in the earliest manuscripts. It is a bit unsettling, and their reaction is completely incoherent. So they attempt to fix the ending, but they somehow make it worse. It's just tacked on to the end, so I guess while Mary Magdalene is fleeing in terror, she runs into Jesus, and then goes and tells everyone else, but they don't believe her. So Jesus appears in a different form to 2 others who go and tell everybody, but they don't believe them either. So Jesus finally just appears to the disciples to rebuke them for not picking him up at the airport. And you can't really blame him. Their disbelief makes no sense. After everything, Jesus couldn't get his closest and most intimate loved ones to believe him without seeing. But he somehow thinks that he's going to send them into the world to convince others of a stranger's resurrection without being able to see it like the disciples did? Yeah, don't worry. I'm just going to let you do everything that I did that didn't convince you. Heal the sick, cast out demons, play with snakes, drink poison. Of course, I highly recommend you don't do any of these things. But just do that stuff and you'll succeed where I failed. And the story only gets more hilarious with the later gospel. It's like Luke was wondering why they didn't believe him. He adds, remember when you were with him and he told you all of this? And they were like, oh, right, yeah. I vaguely remember him saying something like that. Literally no one believed him. In John, Mary thought Jesus was a gardener. They didn't even recognize him when they were walking and talking with him. Or they thought he was a ghost. And even seeing him, some still didn't believe him. He had to convince them and said, remember when I told you all of this like multiple times? What sucks is that nobody believed him without seeing for themselves. But only Thomas is called out for it. And from that time forward, everyone is expected to do what his disciples could not. This was Scriptures with an Atheist.